The text Bobby just read is written as Jesus' last prayer for his disciples. As John tells this story, after the prayer is finished, Jesus and his disciples are going to head out across a valley, but before they are able, Judas will betray Jesus. Jesus will be captured and crucified. So I said just a second ago when John tells the story, and I'd like to clarify that a little bit. This book of the Bible, where this text comes from, is titled The Gospel According to John. John was the name of one of Jesus' students, one of his inner circle of followers, and the tradition of the church has it that this disciple, named John, wrote this book of the Bible. Scholars have now figured out, from some of the historical references that are in the text and other clues in the language the text was written in, that this book wasn't written until 60 or 70 years after Jesus died. This would have made the disciple John at least 90 to 100 years old, maybe older, when the gospel was written. Scholars have also identified multiple styles of writing and grammars within the book, which suggests that it was written by more than one person or a group of people. Also, the text of the book never says that it was written by John. The title, Kata Yohanin, or According to John, was added later by translators. One of the clues that suggested that this book was in fact written by John is that the disciple John seems to be identified in the story as the disciple that Jesus loved. And who else would have cast John in such a favorable light other than himself? Well, his own students might have, who had spent years themselves listening to John talk about Jesus, possibly at the church in Ephesus. They would likely refer to John in such a positive way. This is not historical fact, but I think plausible history that a possible scenario is that when Jesus died, John stayed in Jerusalem for a while and helped Jesus' brother James build the community there, and then after a while went to modern-day Turkey, to the city of Ephesus, and helped build a church there. Here, he gathers to himself an inner circle of students who listen to him talk every day for the rest of his life about Jesus and Jesus' way, and then John passes, and John's followers respond by trying to preserve his memory and his teaching by writing the gospel according to John. When John was young, like the other disciples, he might have been attracted to Jesus because Jesus was heading boldly down a road that led to certain death. Jesus, following a call from God, calls out the religious leaders in his time for their cooperation with the Roman Empire. Jesus calls for a renewal movement that, although nonviolent and centered around loving the stranger, is in fact threatening to the powers that be, the powers that the text Bobby read calls the world. In today's text, we may in fact see Jesus' words that he actually prayed. But we also see a community's response to the fear and pain of losing one they admired and loved. Philip Toledano is a photographer who offers a modern example of a similar response. When Toledano's mother passed away, I believe his dad lived with Toledano and his wife. He created a photo essay called Days with My Father about him and his dad's relationship after his mom died. His dad suffered from fairly severe short-term memory loss. One of the first things Toledano writes in the essay is about his dad asking where his wife is. Toledano says that his dad would ask every 15 minutes, and each time he told him she had died, it would be a total shock to him, and they would have to relive this wound over and over. Finally, Toledano decided to start telling his dad she had gone to Paris to take care of her sick brother. In words and fantastic images, Toledano remembers his parents and their relationship. Toledano's dad died himself at the age of 99. Toledano writes about his dad's acting career in the 1930s. about his dad's ongoing enthusiasm for fitness and eating eggs. One of the most poignant shots in the essay is of Toledano's dad with his eyes closed, a somber, deep pain on his face. And Toledano writes out to the side that there are times when his dad remembered. Toledano says, about my mom, about everything. When someone suffers from severe dementia, their loved ones have to deal with losing them, even though part of them is still present. Toledano's short piece describes this poignantly and wonderfully, and I'll post a link to it on our MyFace, tell me what it's really called, Facebook space tonight. Our text in John ends saying, sanctify them in the truth. Your word is truth. As you have sent me into the world, so I have sent them into the world. And for their sakes I sanctify myself, so that they also may be sanctified in truth. As you have sent me into the world, so I have sent them into the world. When we remember who wrote this text, I think we see that John and John's disciples, in turn, are dealing with their loss, remembering their teacher and trying to carry on their teacher's mission. John was called by his memory of Jesus, his teacher and friend and companion, to build a church. John's students carried on the memory of their own teacher by writing out all he had taught them.
Mark down.